Let's talk about the current Chancellor, who is Rachel Reeves. She's set to defend her record, helming the British economy in a Mansion House speech tonight. She'll tell the assembled gathering of financiers that her decisions have strengthened our economic circumstances. But with oil prices spiking as the US-Iran conflict escalates again, how long will any good news last? Let's talk to Simon French, columnist for The Times and the chief economist at Panmure Liberum. Simon, we know a little bit about what Rachel Reeves is going to say. I'm just quoting, let me have a look at some of she is likely to say, the government has made huge strides, we've fixed the foundations, restoring economic stability, and the economy is strong because of my choices. That's it in a bit of a nutshell. What do you think?
Well, she's got her case in first. I think if you look at the data since July 2024, it's rather more mixed than that assessment. I think there are areas where she can claim she's made a difference positively. I think the current budget balance over the last 12 months is about 20 billion annualized lower than it was when she inherited the finances from Jeremy Hunt. She's also put some downward pressure on inflation. That means at the moment, UK inflation is running lower than in the Eurozone and the United States. But I think the other side of the ledger and the more critical side would say that the jobs market has stalled, largely because of the increase in employee national insurance, which was a choice of this Chancellor. And also when you're talking about the business sentiment, consumer confidence, those vibes are not everything in economics, but certainly there was a lot of goodwill towards this government going into July 2024 in the general election, which was pretty quickly crushed. And I think she has acknowledged publicly, and I suspect she will acknowledge this evening, that that was a mistake.
There's also the fact that unemployment amongst young people has gone up, and that, I think, is an issue of real concern to many, many people. What needs to be done about that? What can be done?
So what started off in 2015 under George Osborne, the introduction of the national living wage, has taken the UK minimum wage, now national living wage, from about 49% of the average wage to 66% of the average wage. And while that is, it polls popular with members, Labour MPs, I'm sure, who come on your programme, trumpeted as one of their triumphs, as did Conservative MPs before them. But the reality is, added to employer national insurance, the Employee Rights Act, employer national insurance, that is a pretty heady cocktail that means that the cost of employing someone, a young person starting out their career in the UK, has risen at the fastest rate of any developed economy. And that is basically pricing people out of the labour market.
Now, a little earlier on, we were asking listeners who they wanted as Chancellor, and a couple of names that just popped up. I wonder what you think, because these men are associated with the Burnham camp. Andy Haldane suggests Wayne, and Nick goes for Jim O'Neill for Chancellor. Do you, first of all, we should say, Simon, are you confident that Rachel Reeves is on the way out?
Yes, I think she is. I think she has been useful for Keir Starmer as something of a human shield to some of the unpopular things she's had to do. I don't think that same use extends to Andy Burnham. So unfortunately, the raw politics means that she is time limited in the Treasury, and that time will probably expire on Monday. Right. In terms of those two individuals, they're already advisors to the Burnham camp. There is no constitutional reason why they couldn't vote, because they're both not MPs. Mm-hmm. They could both be made. Well, Jim O'Neill already is a Lord. Yeah. Andy Haldane could be ennobled, could be put in the House of Lords, and they would both be very decent chancellors, I think. I think the reason why they won't be is that when you are a prime minister, you have a few cards you can play in order to get support, patronage from your own party. And one of those is handing out prestigious jobs. If you don't hand out the most prestigious one that you can to one of your own MPs, that rather dilutes your political power. So although great suggestions from your listeners, I think that runs into the problem of real politics.
Okay, well, some people would say we could well be running into what they might perceive as the problem of Ed Miliband as Chancellor. So what do you say about that?
I would agree with your listeners who think that would be perceived poorly on international markets. Now, Andy Burnham, in some of his comments a year and a half ago about being in hock to the bond market, those were ill-advised comments. But the reality is when you borrow 2.9 trillion pounds off investors, you have to care what they think. And if they see Ed Miliband take the Chancellorship, and this may be a correct or an incorrect assertion, they will say, well, the policy he is most associated with is an energy policy that has made the UK's energy the most expensive in the world.
Yeah.
And therefore, if you extend that inflation to other parts of the economic brief, well, actually, we just anticipate higher inflation and a dilution of our spending power as a UK business, as a UK consumer.
And to put it really simply, we need to grow the economy, and we can't grow the economy when our energy costs are so much higher than most other major economies.
Yes, and I think there have been a couple of decent pieces in the Times over recent days from business making just that point. Energy is one of those things that gets into all the cracks of the economy, and it doesn't matter whether you're running an energy-intensive manufacturing company in the north of England or a data centre in the south of England. This is a key input cost, and you don't have a route to competitiveness and growth while you have the most expensive energy costs in the world.
Right, OK. If it is Ed Miliband, and it still might be, the reaction in the city will be what?
Well, I just put a note out to clients about 7 minutes ago, just before I came on air, saying that I think there would be a sell-off of UK government debt. That will be higher interest rates intraday on Monday, if that's the announcement, and it's Ed Miliband. But look, let's not overdo the idea, perhaps the caricature of Ed Miliband. What he then does as Chancellor is far more relevant than him as a figurehead, as an individual. And I think investors will take their time to assess whether they are correct in the suspicion that he would be a high inflation chancellor, and would wait to see what he actually delivers in the first budget, which was likely to come towards the end of October.
How happy are you, and how happy is the city generally, that as we sit here on Tuesday, we don't know who's going to be in number 11 this time next week? We genuinely don't know. How much of an issue is that?
Well, I'm always happy, but look, how's the city feeling about this question? Look, I think they don't like the fact that this will be, I think, the 9th Chancellor in 10 years. So we're going to have the 7th Prime Minister. It's going to be the 9th Chancellor in 10 years. I mean, if you listeners are football fans, it feels like Watford FC and their turnover of managers. I mean, it's not exactly saying the UK is a stable place on which to place your investments, place your capital. So look, the fact we don't know, I think most people in the city have said this is the baseline, this is expectation, that we've just got pretty volatile politics. And as someone said to me, an investor said to me earlier in the week, we feel a lot like Italy, very hot weather and a turnover of frontline politicians. Hopefully it extends to the football later in the week.
Well, Italy didn't qualify for the World Cup.
Well, I know, but their history
of football,
yes, all right.
Yes, it almost
details.
Yes, okay. Now, you mentioned the volatility. The international picture at the moment is pretty gloomy. Let's have a quick listen to Donald Trump. Here he is on Fox News yesterday about the apparently closed Strait of Hormuz.
Well, we're taking over the strait. They have nothing. But we had a deal. What nobody knows, we had a deal. It was a done deal. And then they broke it. They always break it. We've had 10 deals with these people, and so we're just going to hit them very hard. And we're going to keep the strait, and we'll probably run it. We'll become the guardian of the strait. Maybe we'll call it the guardian angel of the strait. And we should be reimbursed for that.
Right. Stay calm, everybody. He sounds completely rational. What do you think of that?
Yeah, he sounds like a great candidate for Chancellor. Do you think he'll take the job if offered? No, sorry, I digress. Look, I'm staggered, and I think most people are, that we've had this event go on in the Gulf, Strait of Hormuz, for, well, coming up to 5 months, and still the oil price is at $85 a barrel, which
So not that high, in other words.
not that. I mean, it got up to $120, but it's back down at 85. And even the suggestion overnight of a 20% tariff payable to the US for protecting the Straits, which is a straight contradiction of everything else the Trump administration has been saying about the Iranians having no basis on which to put their own tariff on cargo passing through the Straits. It's just mad. It's inflationary. Global investors looking at this would say, look, this is disrupting a key input into, as we said earlier, energy market. But the degree to which anybody truly believes that he will stick to this position for more than a news cycle, and a very short news cycle of that, is reflected in the pricing. It's reflected in the pricing that the oil markets believe that this will be very temporary disruption. Right,
because frankly, when it comes to Donald Trump, they've heard it all before.
Exactly.
Right, I think that's a pretty depressing note on which to end. But let's get a football prediction from you. The World Cup final on Sunday will be played between, Simon?
England and France.
Thank you. That's what I wanted to hear. Thank you, Simon. Simon French is a columnist for The Times and the chief economist at Panmure Liberum.